Hi everyone, my name is Gabriel and this is the Hour of the Raven, your channel for everything Ravenloft, RPG, Dungeons and Dragons and horror. Today I will present to you a new project I have been working on, a campaign set in Sithicus from the classic setting, called The Return of the Black Rose. Also, due to the release of the new book Ravenloft, The Horrors Within, I will present and comment the new version of Sithicus present for the 5th edition of Ravenloft. First of all, I would like to apologize for the long delay in releasing new videos for the channel. Over the past month, I have paused video production to try to finish a long-standing project that was already in production and which I intend to present to you now. In addition to producing videos about the lore of the setting, some friends and I have come together to create the Black Feather, a group dedicated to creating Ravenloft material for distribution and sale on DM's Guild. Over the past few years, we have released several books, such as The Dread Space, a Ravenloft and Spelljammer crossover with space-themed domains, The Horrors of Elcott, an adventure exploring one of these Dread Space domains, and The Weather Maze Survival Guide to the Mists, a sort of player's guide for 5th edition that adapted many of the races, classes, religions, and backgrounds from the classic Ravenloft setting to the 5th edition. Unfortunately, however, the Black Feather has gone on a hiatus, and now production on some of our other projects is on hold indefinitely. The hiatus of the Black Feather couldn't be the end of long-conceived projects, and I decided to join forces with another Black Feather colleague, Leandro Zerbinati, to launch a new project under the Hour of the Raven label. I have had an idea for the project for a long time, the release of adventures that I call the Legacy of the Mists. These adventures will be an attempt to continue the classic Ravenloft setting, picking up the timeline and characters and domains abandoned after the end of the 3rd edition of the setting, and creating an update of the Gazetteers and a campaign that would advance the setting's grand plot. We proudly present our first book published in the Legacy of the Mist line, the campaign The Return of the Black Rose. This adventure explores Sithicus from the classic Ravenloft setting and considers the canonical events of the setting, such as Lord Soth's return to the world of Queen in Dragonlance and the rise of Inza Kulchevich as Dark Lord of Sithicus. In this campaign of over 270 pages, the characters are drawn into Sithicus, a land of specters, where the tyrannical Azrael Dark rules with an iron fist, and a nefarious supernatural force infects the shadows of the domain. After an encounter with ghosts of the past and the spectre of the bloody cobbler, the adventurers have a macabre destiny imposed upon them, and will find themselves on the path to confront the dominant force of Sithicus, the dread Inza Kulchevich, the Queen of Shadows. This long journey will take them to visit the capital of Sithicus, Heartland, the dreaded Fulmwood and the village of Kendralin, the military Sorrow Camp, the bloody Iron Hills, the city of Wrath and its cursed moors, the haunted ruins of Nedagard, and the ancient horrors hidden beneath the salt mines of Veidrava, in search of the fragments of the Mirrors of Memory. During the campaign, several known allies and enemies of Sithicus can be encountered, such as the Spectre of the White Rose, the cursed warrior Ganelon, the monster-hunting elf Jameld, the vengeful group of Vistani the Wanderers, and the enigmatic Blessed Knight, who may turn to be allies or enemies in search of a way to defeat the Shadow of Sithicus. As the adventurer's name suggests, the confrontation with Inza may have a great impact on Sithicus, and perhaps foreshadow the return of its former master and Dark Lord. All the artwork for this adventure was digitally created by my project partner, Leandro Zerbinati, who is also responsible for the layout and design. We know that the use of artificial intelligent artwork is a relevant issue for some of you, and in this project we do not have any illustration generated in this way. If you are interested in our book, I will leave the link to purchase it from DM's Guild in the video description. This is our first project on the Legacy of the Mists line, but we hope to release more books like this soon under the Hour of the Raven label. If this type of project interests you, or if you have something to tell us about what you thought of the adventure, please let us know and leave a review on DM's Guild, so that we can always deliver a better book with each new project. The capricious dark powers are treacherous, however, and fate will have it that the release of The Return of the Black Rose coincided with the release of Ravenloft, The Horrors Within, a new book for the Ravenloft setting, released for 5th edition, which also introduced Sithicus as a domain, bringing Lord Soth back to occupy the position of Dark Lord. In the past, I have already done a complete coverage of Sithicus in the classic Ravenloft setting, presenting the domain, its current Dark Lord Inza Kulchevich, and also an extensive video about Lord Soth, recounting his past in Kryn, his time as a Dark Lord in Ravenloft, and his story after he escaped from the Mists and returned to the Dragonlance setting. I will leave the link to these videos in the video description. As I have actually done with other domains that have had reinterpretations for 5th edition, I will present in this video the main changes presented in the new version, and will do an overview of the new Sithicus for the 5th edition. The new Sithicus is a Ravenloft domain that explored dark fantasy themes. The domain surprisingly maintains the same map as its previous version, but has been drastically altered, being transformed into a ruined land devastated by the flames of the cataclysm that Soth failed to prevent. Sithicus' inspiration comes directly from the Dragonlance setting, with events from Kryn and Lord Soth's past having prominence in this new version. In the case of a fallen knight, chivalric plots like the Tales of Arthur and the Round Table can serve as a great inspiration for Sithicus, with Inza also fulfilling the role of the witch in these stories. During my reading of the new Sithicus, I also found possible sources of inspiration in video game settings such as Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, or Elden Ring, where a vast region is replete with ancient ruins, ravaged by some great supernatural cataclysm, and full of creatures that, when defeated, can reveal more about the enigmatic past of this domain. The new Sithicus is a land marked by tragedy and haunted by the past. It reflects the world of Kryn, but here, Lord Soth's failure to prevent the cataclysm continues to reflect in this nightmarish reality. Travelers from Kryn will be able to identify the constellation of the 5-headed dragon Takisis in the sky, and practitioners of the dark arts of magic will be able to identify the black moon of Nuitari in the sky. Sithicus is covered by ancient forests of great trees, but throughout its entire expanse, endless ruins can be found, symbols of a great elven nation that vanished, leaving only enigmatic traces of its architecture and art. The flames of the cataclysm still burn in Sithicus, and in various places, large illusory violet flames can be found, still burning like great memories and wounds of the Kryn cataclysm. Each of these spires of cataclysmic flames is guarded by a powerful guardian, a creature of shadows that takes the form of great warriors, dragons, or other figures linked to Lord Soth's past. When these guardians are defeated, the illusory flames they guard can reflect fragments of Lord Soth past in the violet flames, revealing his secrets before disappearing. Life in Sithicus is divided between day and night. There are few communities of inhabitants of Sithicus, but they do not seem to have any connection with the ruins of these lands. As soon as night falls, they hide in their homes to escape the horrors that haunt at night when shadows haunt the land of specters. Most of the shadows of Sithicus are harmless and seem to merely relive some distant past, imprisoned for eternity in a moment. Some appear as knights on a quest, people trapped in strong emotions, or even monsters, but they generally don't even notice the presence of the living. However, there are other dangerous shadow creatures that roam these lands. They resent the living and enjoy tormenting them. The map of the new Sithicus is surprisingly identical to those of previous editions, but numerous locations undergo changes. The capital of Heartland is now a ruined city, practically uninhabited, where only about 100 people take refuge. At night, however, its empty streets and buildings are haunted by the shadows of Sithicus. The city of Roth was once a large city near a swamp, in whose moors there were reports of mummies buried in the mud. In this new interpretation, it is a city built on twisted trees above the swamp, and whose dead, buried in the mud, can come back to life. The city of Mal Eric was another elven city, known for housing the great library of Sithicus. Now it has become a forgotten center of knowledge, where a few obsessed scholars remain engrossed in their work, oblivious to the decay around them. The Sorrow was the base of a camp of Azrael's dark military power in the classic setting, and now has become a supernatural prison guarded by the undead. Mysterious prisoners from other domains of the Mistlands are sometimes swallowed into its cells. The giant cloaked forest is now named after the hermit stone giants who protect this area and who mark petrified trees with runes. The Merchant's Lash is no longer the main road where merchants arrive in Sithicus, but a trail littered with the wreckage of abandoned merchant caravans, where eccentric salesmen from distant lands can still sometimes be found. The Lake of Glass is a new location, perhaps replacing the Lake of Sounds. It is a lake that moves like water, but has a solid surface like glass, and reflects the black moon of Nuitari, making magic in this place stronger but also cursed. The Great Chasm remains a chasm in the center of Sithicus, but it is said that its depths hold thousands of hungry shadows. In ruins near the chasm reside Inza, who ceased to be a Vistani transformed into a creature of shadows to become a witch capable of controlling the shadow of Sithicus, and who desires the power of Lord Soth. The fortress of Lord Soth, Nidragard, is also slightly altered in its maps and structure, and becomes a living tower which seems to grow and wither like a living creature. Some places, such as the Iron Warden Inn, the Veidrava salt mines, and the village of Kendralin, retain similar descriptions, with only minor descriptive alterations. The Dark Lord of the new version of Sithicus is no longer Inza Kulchevich, and Lord Soth, the Death Knight, reigns once more. New statistics are presented for Lord Soth in the book, making him a 19th challenge rating Death Knight, full of special abilities as a Dark Lord. Lord Soth's past is presented in an extremely summarized way in the new book, but is cohesive with part of his past in the classic setting, at least until he becomes the Dark Lord of Sithicus. The tale of Lord Soth's past is extensive, and we already have a complete video about the character, the link to which is below in the description of the video. I will focus here on the main difference found between this version and that of the classic setting. The new Lord Soth completely ignores all events that occurred after Lord Soth's arrival in Sithicus. Lord Soth pursued the ghost of the traitor Caradoc to the borders of the Mists, where he destroyed him, and then became the Dark Lord of Sithicus. He then went through several events, such as his obsession and trance with the memory mirrors, and the events of the Hour of the Screaming Shadows, described in the novel Spectre of the Black Rose, until he managed to escape his prison of mists in Ravenloft and return to Kryn. In this new version, the spirit of Caradoc, the traitor, escaped Lord Soth's destruction, and the Death Knight remains obsessed with finding Caradoc's ghost, ordering his seneschal Azrael and his undead servants to search for him in Sithicus. His situation as a Dark Lord of Ravenloft, and as a character of Kryn is curious. Lord Soth is the Dark Lord of Sithicus, while sitting on his throne in his fortress on Kryn, bitterly reflecting on the past. Thus, whenever he finds himself idle in his fortress, he is transported to the demiplane of Dread to be tormented by the dark powers. However, every time he is summoned by his evil goddess Sithicus to serve her in her battles, Lord Soth leaves the demiplane of Dread, returning to Kryn to serve as her general in battles. Lord Soth becomes a particularly curious case of a character who has shared custody between Sithicus and the Dark Powers, existing simultaneously in the Ravenloft and Dragonlance settings. Obviously, the solution ignores the character's entire history, including the Dragonlance novels after he escapes from the Land of the Mists. Many still prefer the old classic version of Sithicus, or may try to integrate elements from both versions of the characters and domain. The new version of the domain of Sithicus has many points in common with the classic version, and with some adjustments, a continuity of the domain can be created, instead of a reinterpretation. The new Sithicus may represent the future of the classic domain, with a cataclysmic-like devastation, leading the domain to become a ruin ravaged by black flames. An event of this magnitude could occur if someone attempted the ritual that led to the first event of the Hour of Screaming Shadows, which caused a large sphere of shadows and flames to plummet upon Nethergard Keep. What would happen if this ritual were attempted again by Inza or Azrael, this time without interference to prevent its completion? Could its effects devastate Sithicus, turning the domain into a wasteland of ruins, dark flames and shadows? The return of Caradoc's Spectre could easily be explained as a plot by the Dark Powers, or even as a reflection that escaped the mirrors of memory, just like the Blessed Night. As for Inza's fall and the possible return of Lord Soth, these are exactly the ideas we dealt with in our book, The Return of the Black Rose, and they could be adjusted to lead the classic domain to become more similar to the one presented in the Ravenloft, The Horrors Within. And you, what do you think of the new version of Sithicus from the Ravenloft, The Horrors Within book? Which of these versions do you intend to use elements from in your narratives and games? Join us subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. I know I'm behind on some videos and I owe you my coverage of The Created, but considering that Ravenloft has a new setting book, in the next video I will review the new book Ravenloft, The Horrors Within.